This is my collected pamphlets. It's the reverse colours of J.H. Prynne's collected poems. So his is that blue font on that yellow background. And it's because I kind of feel people kind of expect a Prynne thing with me now that I may as well have just learnt into it. And that's what I did. It's all of my pamphlets put into one piece. And it came from two sort of ideas. One as an attempt to ensure the I have ownership of all these works in one volume, and that belongs to me because I can publish that and then make it so that no one else can. I don't know. And another way to kind of put a kind of lid on that as I move forward. Say they're out there now because they came in disparate forms. Like Shit Show was limited to 50, Blood Fjord was limited to 20, Last 100 is sold out. That one won a medal. I don't really talk about it much, but it actually won a medal. I should have won the medal. It's in the shack, in the legitimate shack. So that was kind of the idea behind this. I've just noticed that there's a mark visible on my forehead, and what happened there was I was leaving a room and the door was shutting, and I can't see my hand right now. I can't see that. I've got no vision there. To the top, I've only got 75% vision left in both eyes after the hemorrhage, and I didn't see the door shutting, and I walked right into it. And at first, it was the size of an egg, and it's calmed down now. But it's just looking at me now on a more visible form, I can see that. So I'm going to get started with one of these poems, and it's Amnesty International Workers, which came from my pamphlet, The Rink. The idea was I was a submariner for 3 years. I worked on the V-class naval submarines, the one that carry the Trident nuclear missiles, which is strange because anybody who knows me thinks that's not you in the slightest, and it wasn't. Nero, as I mentioned earlier, went into recession. They couldn't afford Brewster Maestros anymore, and the job of assistant manager had gone to someone else while I was away. So I was out of a job and I needed work, so I joined the military. And I was a submariner. And this is my kind of pamphlet to talk back against that act of being there, and also about the kind of warfare on the working class. So this was called Amnesty International Workers Campaigned for Nuclear Disarmament. The night has calmed to the point we can't process our features in the darkroom. Everything is no longer a dark room. You have told our daughter to cover her eyes so often, I worry she will forget how to open them when the dreams start. I have wasted our halos on an argument against the inevitable. Dangerous men become more powerful with every act more powerful with every man. Every man a temper tantrum away from us. We remain at the edges, waiting to be excused. We forget we are working class. We are disposable. So next up is Budapest 2000. My grandfather is a Hungarian war refugee. He left in '56 during the revolution. He left with 6 friends. Him and one friend decided to go south at the border. The other 4 wanted to go north, and they argued about it, and they split. Those 4 were caught and imprisoned. Him and his friend got to Austria, to a Red Cross center, where he was flown to Plymouth and learned to speak English by watching Laurel and Hardy and the news. And he, so for the first 8 to 10 years of my life, I pretty much just lived with him and my nan. I watched a lot of Laurel and Hardy. So this book was Bampi, and it was my love letter to him. He's in Sheffield now, but he left when I was 10, so 1999, to go back to Hungary for a while. So this references that. Budapest 2000. I break your heart. Dear Artur, It was good to hear from you. I also sing in my sleep and wait for cuckoos to march. I am sorry I cannot come home just yet. I was hoping to be with you for your birthday, but I'll have to miss it this year. How does the sky look in Red Roof? Is it still screaming? I have begun drowning myself a little bit every night so that when the flood comes, I will be immune. I searched for the 2 florins, but only found half. I'd like you to imagine what the Danube looks like so many years after the fact. It is less than it was. It is less than it was. I have written to you twice, and you can show your father one. He is not worth a nickname. Please send my love to the mines. Your best friend, Bampy. He's always called me Arthur because when I was born, I was fat and bold like Arthur Muller, the old comedian, which was lovely because when Otis was born, he was a big baby, and there's something about that it's a healthy baby. It looks fantastic. It's great. So it's a nickname that I've always loved. I've always loved this sense of this giant bold baby. I love that. And I don't think there's anything else in there. No, so I've got no family photos of me as a baby or a child, and him and my nan sent me down a small bundle, and on the back of one was written this Hungarian phrase, and it was me and my 3 brothers sat in the picture, and it was this Hungarian phrase on the back, and all I understood was Arthur. So I asked a Hungarian friend online to translate it, and it said, Arthur is still my favorite one, and that I could cry right now about that, to be honest with you. Next up, we've got Levant 1919, which is a sestina, which people seem to really like the sestina, so I read it fairly often. I wrote this sestina in a half-an-hour lunch break. It took me half an hour to write it, and I have never edited it because it kind of works, which as an editor is sacrilege to say, so I'm sorry to everyone for that. So this is called Levant 1919. It's about a mining disaster in Cornwall in Levant in 1919. Other materials, even in iron-pressed fatigue. The calm precedes the storm, precedes sleep, stretched so thin it is broken in twilight. Home is void by work. Miners are void by pattern. Full of intent, patterns of populace against iron for the sake of cheap work. Cracks spread across calm chatter. The bulk of broken beams turn loose in sleep, so deep to be eternal sleep. Every timber leaves a pattern, neither confirmed nor broken in the wake of the iron. There is a permanent calm with the permanent loss of work, choked by the need for work in the palm of dead. Sleep as insurance against calm infinity, the depth of patterns in the onyx of an iron wall. The rods are made to be broken and rebuilt to be broken again. Across the soiled work tundra, run beneath iron rain, scalding the dreams. Sleep tonight in delicate pupils. Pattern patchwork fields for the rest, calm to be laid upon the sweet, calm soil. Tin prices are made to be broken and lost, as prayers spread pattern against the duchy sky. The end of work and the frightful long sleep of an anxious walk to ruin. I and every calm friend lost to work, into all of the night's broken sleep. Press their pattern deep with iron. Next is Splendid Giants, which was kind of a bit ahead of its time, weirdly, when I think about it. This was my argument that if humans, it was kind of an argument that if humans attempt to colonize space, we won't colonize space, we'll just capitalize space and turn it into another capitalist realm. So that was what I was trying to argue, is that it's just going to become venture capitalism, and the bourgeoisie are just going to try and get into space so they can sell it as a commercial aspect. And I wrote this about 4 years ago, and over the last few weeks we've seen very rich men try and take giant penises into space. So I think I was bang on the money here. It also concerns some Greek mythology, because what is a poem if it doesn't somewhere concern some form of Greek mythology? Jeffrey Bezos. Okay, hell of a track. Check out Viburnum's Inside there. It's great. So this is Splendid Giants. The satellite is You climbing all heights, a kingfisher remarkable. Alcyonids disrupt the way I wait old lined parchment in suicide doors. Grief transformation, Herculean effervescent bleed us. Castration and flowery. It is to wait, it is in our nature to birth giants and provide watered graves. The movement enamored is movement squared, weightless in envy. Envoy to empty colonies as eons settled in dusk at the rise. Great rise among the crest of black blue oil sweat labor. Each bird a lake and reason. We, semi-paladins, semi-panic in our patois, useless among stars who speak treble clef in frequencies, designed for fishermen's temporal lobes. Lines cast across event horizons, arise upon the grace of eternity, eternity, the width of dream anthe stretch swung. To become a bird is better than to drown in ice. Shivered, swollen, burnt nodules, we have self-immolated. Initial free form takes shape stolen across dust is the same. Love through commodities, through common oddities, as capital stretched light years across hotels, stationed, communities as global enterprise, and us, following rules, we swore to abandon on home. The shrine maiden of the kingfisher of your night, who is the fantasy of the Alcyonid festival on the coast of Hourglass. Moon, heavy skies, pluralized illumination of champagne blesses the atom's earthly wave kiss. The baby arrows, typical and jealous. The following watering in the evening is heavy blessed, the baby moon's nuclear packs. Winged giants splendid, battling Athena. Token gestures the size of multiple universes, sacrifice an offspring for just the one rock to scale mountains for legislation. And there we go. I agree. It's them coming back that I struggle with. This one is famous. So it's not famous. It's called famous. It's not as famous as the song it's based on. So this is from a pamphlet called The Afterlife of Pablo, which is based on Kanye West's album, The Life of Pablo, which is just an incredible album. And I know you've got to kind of think which version was incredible. The first one he released, the one he released a week later, the one he mastered 3 weeks later, or the one he released 2 months later. But I kind of want to be the Kanye West of poetry and keep changing my books after I release them. I thought about that a lot. If anyone wants to get in on that, let me know. We'll work something out. So what I did is I took every track off that album and turned it into a sonnet, except Wolves, which I turned into a William Carlos Williams parody, because of course I did. Because it's got a line about you left your fridge open, someone took a sandwich. I mean, straight into plums. So this is the track Famous, which uses the track Bam. Now, this has been turned, I printed this into a 7-inch record with no record inside, but it's a 7-inch vinyl record case, and inside is 12 7-inch inserts with a sonnet from the album on each side in the correct track listing order of Kanye's album. And the vinyl cover copies the Life of Pablo album cover. It's orange, it's got the Afterlife of Pablo repeated, it's got a photo of me in school that I hate, that's why I put it there. You know, confront your anxieties and then you'll hate your own work strong enough that it happens straight away. You don't have to worry about hating it in 3 months' time because you've already hated it. This is, my camera has given up on me, but that's fine. It'll come back. There we are. So is, I keep cutting out, that's fine. Famous. So it's a really good track. I'd fully recommend it. From the very start, let us act famous. In the streets, in this hood, in the sky. In the air over the sun. I can't try to understand how to be free, nameless. We ain't know we never Kanye famous with personal debt. That day parade vibe. Last month, I wanted to wake up and die. We way too late to never be nameless. I love my girl in the air like a jet, no matter why. We still want to see free love. Everybody hands over debt. My own kin know me best, better than me. Bam, a real estate agent, fresh to let. Bam! You can't stop us wanting to be free. So the idea was I had to use the words. I could only use words if Kanye had used them in the particular track. It was quite fun. I do this one and then one more, and then I'll hand you over to King Adrian Earle. I will send you, Richard. Do not worry. I will send you the sandwich poem in the parody of William Carlos Williams's Plums. So this one's called Timothy Loman. This was part of my anti-police poetry I wrote a few years back, and then when BLM, etc., were protesting as well, I really pushed forward with it and had more to say. I've always hated the cops because they suck, and because, you know, this poem will sum up those reasons. But when the people who are designed to protect you are the people who are attacking you, where do you turn? So this was originally, every poem was named after a police officer who had killed somebody, and every poem was named like Timothy Loman is guilty, etc. And then someone told me I could be sued, so I leave it as Timothy Loman, and I just tell everyone that Timothy Loman is guilty instead. So they sing songs when it rains. They like the sound of windscreen wipers squeegeeing blood. They eat burgers after murders and donuts after abuse. They prefer their glass two-way and their conversations one-way. They think window shopping is the first step to suspicious activity. It is an advert for comeuppance. They touch their coffee with their little finger first. They can still hold a baton without their pinky. Some prefer to point their pinky when holding a baton to retain some dignity in the face of bone fractures. They're never caught out at home. They light tea lights in the evening to cover up the scent of their afternoon. They will use either nostril, but find it easier snorting with the right one. They can still work on coke, but they struggle on amphetamines. They know which radiator pipes can bear the weight of a scared teenager. Their favourite plants are succulent daffodils and in the glove box. They count shrapnel to count bullets. Before counting bullets requires a thought process in media res. They bear arms and bear arms to look for evidence. A track is the first step to the mechanism revealing itself. They like it when the mayor plays along. They admire shoplifters who do it to escape the boredom of financial security. They prefer to look in mirrors face on because they do not like to profile themselves. They take the trash out in pairs for fear of not returning home. They wait until morning and sprint to feel alive. They do not care if the bag splits. They eat until the sides burst, and then they eat the streets, eat the people, filing in the rain to be eaten by the greed and sheer audacity of it all. They are the reason parents look under beds. They console themselves with indigestion. They are humanity, peak inhumane magnanimity, offering a handshake or a squeeze. They eat their young, they eat our young. I'm going to end with a poem called Ecotourists, which is from my new collection I'm working on. So I have terrible insomnia, my whole life I've had insomnia. My poor parents, they had two under the age of 1. I was born in January and my brother in December, and one of us had insomnia. Imagine that. So I've been prescribed every sleeping tablet you can imagine. At the moment, I'm on melatonin, which they don't really prescribe in the UK, but if you've got a 30-year track record, they'll prescribe it. So I take melatonin, and what I do, it's a high dose of melatonin, and it starts to wipe me out. And the moment it starts to wipe me out, I start to write a poem on my phone. And I wake up in the morning and it's typos and it's weird sentences and it's weird phrases and it's really subconscious stuff. Like one of these poems mentions Craig David. I'm not sure why, but the rules of my game as such are that I have to keep in these things. So Craig David has to stay in that poem. That's the whole point of it. So this one is, I was sleeping. I was about to get sleepy and I was in that sleepy stage, and my 1-year-old son, an 18-month-old son, came in and crawled into the bed. about midnight, and my wife wasn't there because our 3-year-old or 4-year-old turned 4 a couple of weeks ago. She had woken up too, and so my wife was in with Rue, and Otis had called into bed with me, and I thought I was just about to go to sleep. I'm still quite sleepy, but I thought, but if I'm going to be woken up, this is one of the sweetest possible ways to be woken up, with this little boy falling asleep with his face on top of my face. So in a sleepy phase, I wrote this and then edited it and then edited it and then edited it to make up for the fact that I don't edit Sestinas, apparently. So this one's called Ecotourists. Even if some seafaring deity spun this world from cobwebs and lint, I'd be grateful upon my demise, in the inevitable dull thrum of purgatory's baseless accusations, for every night interrupted with cry and comfort. There is enough in each embrace to rejoice in the lucky star I was born under, to hold such tenderness in my disparate wake, and allow the clutch of reluctance to be replaced by the settled stage of a deep flow over the porcelain tops of our planet's remaining layer. A finger held with a whole hand, a heart belted into a community chest, a serenade sung for the world's necessary loves. Ah, sweet Otis.